and the old money benefactors of all of these different like artistic initiatives in the city of New York never recognized the Trump family as a part of the elite. The socialites never actually wanted to hang out with him. They always considered him to be crude and brash, of poor taste, nouveau riche. That's where a lot of his anger comes from. Zohran Mamdani, on the other hand, did something that Barack Obama never did, which is just kind of talk to him normally. Because Zohran is a person who was welcomed by the cultural elite very quickly. I mean, it makes sense. He's a well-dressed guy. He's well-spoken. He comes from that background. His father is a fucking academic. His mother is a very famous movie director, right? So he is very clearly a part of that movement, okay? He's very clearly a part of this group that Donald Trump desperately wants to win favors with. And I think a part of the reason why Donald Trump is fascinated with Zohran seemingly is because Zohran Mamdani is I guess not as like repulsed by him. Like he has a way of communicating with him that because he has to fucking play ball because Trump is the president. He has a way of communicating with him in this charming manner that isn't like it isn't like outwardly repulsed. That I think Donald Trump just responds this way to whatever he's doing and offers him whatever he wants. A real hog whisperer, if you will. Not hostile, but also not submissive. Yes. Not like overtly hostile. The same shit Putin does to him, manipulation. Yeah. You never get something for free from Trump. I think part of the reason why he's doing it is because he wants to lean into affordability. He recognizes it's an area that is really devastating for him. What he doesn't realize is that giving Zohran whatever Zohran wants in terms of like affordability is going to give him like a little boost in the press. But it's also going to cause resentment amongst his base. He's going to be like, oh, so you're building housing in fucking New York? Why won't you do that in Missouri? But I don't think Donald Trump gives a shit about that right now. I think he's like so desperate to get some positive coverage or so desperate to associate himself with like actual affordability initiatives that he will do stuff like this. All over, the reports just got dropped by the Perfect Union that they wouldn't let him into the Bohemian Club either. Hence why people believe this anger about the draining of the swamp because it's genuine. He couldn't get into these elite spaces. I've said this for fucking years. I recognized this when Donald Trump came out with that famous tweet talking about Sissy, Graydon Carter not having cool Vanity Fair parties anymore. No man that runs around talking about the Sissy, Graydon Carter's Vanity Fair parties is a man that is from the heartland, that cares about like the average fucking working class American, the average American reactionary living in the Rust Belt. Okay? I've been saying this for years. He always wanted to be welcomed into elite society, and his resentment towards the cultural elite that happened to be liberal or even more radical than liberal comes from the fact that these elite circles never welcomed him because they thought he was like rude and a disgusting slumlord. Okay? That's it. So there are a multitude of different factors here. Obviously, one of them is that he wants to be associated with like doing something in terms of affordability in the realm of housing. But the other reason is because Zohran is welcomed by those forces. I mean, you've seen it. Like he goes to like the he's the mayor of New York City. Trump obviously cares about New York City. he also hangs out with these like cool celebrities and shit. You know what I mean? And it's also additionally ironic that his only fucking experience with the New York cultural elite is currently making him incredibly unpopular. Because his only entry point into the New York cultural elite was through Mar-a-Lago, through Jeffrey Epstein. And now that affiliation and that association is being called into question anyway. So he doesn't even have the cool factor in that regard, right? So he's cooked. And that's what's going on here. Is a W because it's proof that local organizing can achieve results no matter who the big boss is? Yeah. We'll look at the more perfect union, because that's a friend of the show, Daniel Boguslaw's reporting, investigative reporter, formerly of The Intercept and Rolling Stone, that did a Bohemian Grove conspiracy theory video with More Perfect Union. It landed in More Perfect Union as opposed to The Intercept. Apparently, I'm almost certain that he actually did the investigation initially for The Intercept and it got thwarted there. So they landed it on More Perfect Union, which is great. Plowing snow, and he's doing it. He's doing the damn thing, you know? It's hard not to give him praise, you know? All right. Let's continue with this.
Well, I'm now joined by Doug Sosnick, who served as a senior advisor to President Bill Clinton for 6 years. Thank you for joining us. I guess America is so divided that people will divide on how they feel about this. But do you think Hillary Clinton can emerge from her questioning without her reputation damaged?
Well, I think the last person in the world I'd worry about is Hillary Clinton. There's absolutely no reason why she should be called in to testify. She's never met Epstein to her recollection. She's not in the files. This is all about politics. And the chairman of the committee, Mr. Comer, who's been the chairman now for 3 years, so he has a track record, has demonstrated that he's pretty much a backbenching, incompetent political hack on behalf of Trump. And so outside of the MAGA universe, I think the vast majority of people in this country see this for what it is. And I should just add quickly that The Economist came out with a poll this week in which 57% of the country disapproves of how the Trump administration has handled the Epstein matter, and that they believe 53%, which is a majority, believe that there's been a cover-up.
But she did know Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding. And that is an uncomfortably close association with a criminal.
Well, that first of all, that's accurate. And the reason that she was there, my understanding was that Hillary had a long-standing relationship with her boyfriend at the time. But that has nothing to do with what the chairman said on your piece before I came on about why he called her in to get to the bottom of a whole series of questions about Epstein and how he got his money, which is ridiculous, of course, because she never met the guy. And the last thing I'll add is Melania Trump, on the other hand, had a long-standing relationship with Epstein, long-standing relationship. And it shows you the absurdity and the politicization of this, that Hillary's being called, and of course, Melania is not.
Well, and of course, Trump. But I mean, the trouble for Hillary Clinton surely is that her whole political career, since she was First Lady, has been dogged by the behavior of her husband. And he gives evidence tomorrow, and there is much more evidence that he did have a relationship with Epstein. There are all those photos of him, that don't look good. Is it possible for Hillary Clinton not to be affected by the claims against Bill?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's a single person in the United States of America that doesn't have a strong opinion about Hillary Clinton at this point. So I think it's very unlikely that this or anything else is going to change that. But this is not about Hillary Clinton, and there's nothing that came out prior to the hearing or in the hearings so far that suggests in any shape or form that she had any dealings with Epstein. So this is not going to, I don't believe, impact her.
Melania's probably a victim. Let's be real. Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but Melania was connected to Trump through Jeffrey Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel.
In any way.
Right, but what about the impact on Bill Clinton tomorrow when he gives?
I mean, she might have been a victim at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's a different matter. And again, I think most people have a pretty strong opinion one way or the other about Bill Clinton already. And I can just sit here and tell you, I can tell you a couple things. As someone who worked for 6 years for President Clinton, and my office for the last 3 of those years was actually next to the Oval Office, and I went on almost all of his trips for 4 years. I never saw once Epstein either at an event, calling in, never discussed it with him. So I know while, at least when I was there as president, that Epstein had no dealings with Clinton. The matters that have been brought to attention subsequent were after Trump or after Clinton had left office.
We're going to begin with this, though. We've got some major new developments in the fallout from those Epstein files. Former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are set to give depositions to Congress starting today in its probe of the Epstein files. There are also new questions this morning over allegations against President Trump and whether key documents involving his name and an accuser were withheld by the Department of Justice. There has also been an apology from billionaire Bill Gates over his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Nicole Killian is in Chappaqua, New York, where the Clintons will give their depositions. Nicole, good morning. This continues, the fallout continues, and we keep hearing there's more to come. We're also hearing that another member of the global elite has become the latest casualty of the Epstein files. What's this one about?
Yeah, that's right, Gail, and good morning to you. We are learning that the CEO of the Davos Forum has resigned, the latest member of the global elite to face consequences for ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Meantime, here in the U.S., the Clintons are set to appear behind closed doors for taped depositions after being threatened with contempt of Congress.
Images in the Epstein files show powerful men like President Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates in undated photos with women. All three adamantly deny any criminal wrongdoing and have not been charged in connection with Jeffrey Epstein.
Every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize that I did that.
The Microsoft mogul apologized to the Gates Foundation staff Tuesday and admitted to having extramarital affairs with 2 Russian women, but added, "I did nothing illicit," in a recording obtained by the Wall Street Journal. In 2 2013 emails with the subject line "Bill" that Jeffrey Epstein appears to have sent himself.
Yeah, I saw this photo. It's fucking awesome. I had a productive meeting with President Trump this afternoon. I'm looking forward to building more housing in New York City. Ford to city, drop dead. Vows he'll veto any bailout. Trump to city, let's build. Backs new era of housing. Trump delivers 12,000 plus homes, most since 1973. He's so... Dude. Zohran Mamdani is exactly the person that Trump would love to win favor with. Remember when I told you that Donald Trump's greatest anger and resentment towards elite liberals stems from the fact that New York elite society, the intelligentsia, the artists, we'll do that. Woke Alex Jones, if you say so. I don't believe that the Bohemian Grove is a place where they're like actually doing satanic sacrifice, baby sacrifice or something. I think it's another fucking elite club. That's it. It's like a golf club, you know? I think you guys read into it a little too much. Is there a reason why you don't react to More Perfect Union videos? No, I just I'm doing regular hard news coverage and commentary. And More Perfect Union is brilliant. They're fantastic. I just don't, sometimes I don't have time to do
A
it.
convicted sex offender said he had been helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls, including antibiotics to surreptitiously give to Melinda. Gates' ex-wife spoke earlier this month on an NPR podcast.
For me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage.
But the focus now isn't just whose names appear, it's what some lawmakers say isn't there.
The evidence is pointing to these documents missing.
The top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee is raising concerns that documents related to allegations by an Epstein survivor who accused Trump of sexual misconduct may be missing from the documents that were released to the public.
The survivor was made serious allegations of the president, and it needs to be investigated.
Something another Epstein survivor, Elizabeth Stein, says goes beyond any one person.
Anytime that we find anything that could potentially be missing, we need to call attention to it, regardless of who it's about.
And Harvard University announced its former president, Larry Summers, will relinquish his remaining roles following an internal Epstein review. Summers served as Treasury Secretary under former President Bill Clinton. Former Secretary Hillary Clinton will be deposed here today, while her husband will follow tomorrow. Nate.
Nicole, thank you.
There are growing questions in this hour about dozens of records that could be missing from the Epstein files. According to a CNN review, those records in question are FBI witness interviews, and 3 of the missing interviews related to a woman who accused both Jeffrey Epstein.
How will the Republicans spin this? I guess they'll just spin the block and refuse to cover it, right? My favorite contrarian in this entire Jeffrey Epstein saga has been the perennial contrarian Michael Treacy, who has who's waging war on the internet right now, he will take the opposition position on every single issue, and it's awesome that he straight up is like, we need to defend the pedophilic cabal. Like, we need to defend the pedophilic billionaires. He's been like, he's been aggressively attacking the victims, saying that they're all like harlots and liars and all this stuff. When they got defenders like my Tracy Words, they were worried about Howard London confirmed, visited Epstein's pedophile island, showed up to the State Union, all smiles, zero shame. And also, I think Howard London shook Chuck Schumer's hand too at some point. Oh, there it is. It's a big club, and you ain't in it is so real, except you don't want to be a part of this big club anyway, right?
President Trump sexually assaulting
Unless you're fucking Nick Fuentes or one of these losers who's now saying, like, well, Jeffrey Epstein's kind of based, actually. Unless you're a
on the Oversight Committee is among those expressing concern.
I went to the DOJ file search room yesterday to look for these documents that are in the manifest document, and they should be in there, and they're not there. These documents relate to a survivor that has made serious allegations about her. What's important now is the DOJ explained to us why were those documents removed.
Senior Joint Secretary, what more we know about the specifics of these documents?
Well, Erica, the CNN investigative team have taken a look into these records, and they found there are dozens of files that are missing. And the way that they were able to do this is they looked at the serial numbers that were on an evidence log provided to Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. And looking at those serial numbers, discovered that there were dozens of them missing. These all relate to 302s. That's the FBI form for witness interviews. And there are 325 included on that list, but there are 90 of them missing. And within those 90 that are missing includes 3 from a woman who said that she was sexually assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein going back to when she was 13 years old. And she also made an allegation that she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump in the 1990s.
By the way, whenever they say young woman, it blows my fucking mind because the victim is like barely a baby. Like, the victim is a baby, okay? He's a child. Like, 13-year-old is not a fucking young woman, okay? 13-year-old's a little girl. Like, holy shit. Like, we're not even talking about a minor who's like 17, when they already say young woman, we're talking about a 17-year-old, and it's like, okay, well, you're very liberal in your use of the language here, because that's still a fucking teenager, that's still a child, that's still a minor. But you're now talking about like a 13-year-old, and you're like, oh, young woman. Like, that's insane. We're talking about like barely out of being a fucking preteen. Like, what are we talking about?
1980s. Now, we went to the White House with this. They said that these are false allegations and it's just sensationalist. The Justice Department said that they have not deleted any documents, and that they said that if there are documents that are not on the public website, that's either because they were duplicates, privileged, or part of an ongoing investigation. We have seen with the release of these records on the public website that sometimes documents are there, they're taken down, then they're put back up. It's unclear if there is any process that is underway related to these specific documents and these allegations against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, though, has not been accused of any wrongdoing. He's not been investigated for any wrongdoing. And it's unclear what happened to these specific allegations by this woman who spoke with investigators in 2019. There was another record in the files, a summary from the FBI about a number of these salacious allegations that it said that one person claimed abuse by Trump but refused to cooperate. So if that is that same person, it could be that they just reached a dead end. But of course, Democrats are calling foul, as they have repeatedly, about the Justice Department's process of publicizing the records that are required under the law and redactions that they have taken.
Our side of the story broke today. The Justice Department responded to questions of where these documents are, saying, as with all documents flagged by the public, the department is currently reviewing files within that category of production. Should any document be found to have been improperly tagged in the review process and is responsive to the act, being the law that forced them to publish all this, the department will, of course, publish it consistent with that law. My source tonight is California Congressman Dave Min, who is a Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, and thank you for being here. When you hear that response from the Justice Department, do you believe that's sufficient?
Thanks so much for having me, Caitlin. And the answer is no, it's not. They're not responding to the law. And at this point, I think it appears clear and clear every day that they are knowingly violating and willfully violating the law that we passed, that Donald Trump signed into law, requiring them to turn over every responsive document. And I want to be clear, just to clarify two things that I think you alluded to. One, Donald Trump is accused of sexually assaulting a child in those memos that you mentioned. Two, that it's not just a few dozen documents that are not being turned over. Fully half of the documents that we're aware of, some 3 million documents, have not been turned over to the DOJ. They claim they fully responded, and yet we've found over and over again, and I can tell you the oversight Democratic staff have confirmed what you have found, that these documents are missing. They were not turned over, even though they're very clearly responsive to the questions that we asked. And this appears to be part of a very broad cover-up. You may remember that back last May, when Pam Bondi reportedly told Donald Trump he was in the Epstein files. After that, there were a lot of reports that DOJ attorneys were being asked to go redact documents, to hide documents, to remove documents from files that had Donald Trump's name. So we're definitely continuing to look at this, but it appears that the DOJ is willfully violating the law.
Yeah, of course, an interview or a witness statement, it doesn't mean that it happened. I mean, you can read through these documents, there's a lot in there. But in terms of what should be published in accordance with the law that you passed, and these haven't been, I mean, do you believe that they're intentionally breaking that law, or do you think it's because, just what we've heard from DOJ, they had so much to publish, such a compressed time frame, that's the issue here?
Yeah. And so just to give you a quick heads up on my background, I was a federal enforcement attorney to start my career at the SEC. I spent many hours doing this type of document review management and looking things through. And at this point, I do not believe that this is just a delay in turning the documents over. The fact that so many Donald Trump-related documents have not been turned over, his name's been repeatedly redacted, matches a lot of reports that we heard that they were trying to cover this up. And at this point, I think
the chat comes to consensus she mugs him. I mean, Caitlin mugs most. Let's be real. Like, she holds frame. She's frame mugging everybody. She's brow maxing. It's not even a question. She's the mug queen, Queen Mug.
Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Les Wexner, anybody else. But the fact is that everything here looks like the DOJ is, again, under the direction of Pam Bondi, the AG, willfully trying to hide a lot of what's happening right now.
Starting us off, Republican member of the House Oversight Committee, Congresswoman Anna Paulina.
Just psycho. Okay, let's hear from this psychopath.
Thank you for joining me this evening. I mean, you have heard likely the Department of Justice saying that they are looking into whether the files mentioning President Trump were improperly removed. Do you trust them to be transparent in that inquiry?
I've followed up on a number of occasions similar, and they have been very forthcoming. I've actually talked directly to Todd Blanche, and so I will personally be ensuring that that's followed through on. But I would like to also state that I think that the files that we have currently under this administration are likely not the full files. I do believe that some were destroyed previously. And I say that because in January of last year, when I was the only member of Congress that was pushing for the release of these files, we actually had a whistleblower come forward, actually introduced legislation because of that. I even forwarded this finding to the FBI for investigation that there was destruction of evidence. And so it'll probably require a longer segment, but I will say that there have been redactions that we've come across. I've been able to look at the files for a number of hours. Whenever we flag those files, they are immediately then unredacted, but there